on a wider scale basis.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I have a couple of remarks on the building itself. If others had more general process type questions, then I'd wait.
Yeah, go ahead, ask your question.
Okay, so well, I'm assuming what we're seeing there is an architect rendering, right?
Yes.
So right now at Union College where I work, we are in the process of constructing a building very similar in square footage. That's just coincidence. So I happen to be involved. We just selected our architect today. So there's concern about glass. And where I'm seeing right now is like a lot of glass in the front. There's concern about glass because of bird strikes. In Union, we've had past buildings with lots of glass frontage, and it's sadly all too common to see dead birds in the front of them. And you are addressing the CAC conservation, and general welfare of habitat is something that we take into account. Now, not all glass is bad. They have these special kind of like tinted glass that makes some kind of fancy reflection, and it avoids those said bird impacts. So, and at the CAC, we have like a laundry list of things that we always talk to new development proposers, like pesticide-free, energy efficiency, biodiversity, and all that. So, I guess my question is, how open would GE be to hearing such suggestions, which are important to this council?
Well, if you could put forth your concerns or your thoughts, I can certainly take them to the planners.
Mm-hmm.
I think the idea here is to construct a building to house the technology that is evolving. And this is the plan that they would like to proceed with. If there are some minor modifications that you feel would be appropriate to assist in conservation concerns, I'm sure the company would be willing to listen to them. And to that end, might I say, when I was here last, there were a number of concerns raised. And those were codified in a memorandum that Laura did and was incorporated as part of the subdivision approval. I guess the first of those, you can tell the Tree Council that we're in the process now of sourcing and engaging an arborist to assist us with the plantings, the crabapple tree plantings. Those will be replaced when it's seasonally appropriate. In a Teams call that we had with both GE Aerospace and Vernova people back on the 16th of January, I was asked to work, on behalf of the company to be a liaison with the town in connection with some of the initiatives that were a concern to the CAC when we were here last, one of them being a natural resource inventory. And so the natural resource inventory, I think there was also some improvements and placarding along the bike path that was of interest. There was also some thoughts and suggestions on the slope along the Mohawk. So we're willing to entertain those discussions and to be a part of the process with the town. So I want to assure you that that's underway, and we're looking to identify people on the GE side to form part of that discussion group. And I'll be working with the company to do that and to liaise with the town.
That's very comforting to hear.
Yeah, and so I think the point, Doctor, is that with respect to specific concerns that we might do to tweak this building to address, please do bring those forward, and I will take them to the company to see if they can be incorporated in the design.
Sure. Yeah, and I took the liberty of downloading your sustainability report. It's a PDF in GE's website, and a lot of things like that we are talking about, like forest preservation, pesticide-free, low-impact glass, are actually well aligned with GE's own sustainability plan.
Yeah, and I think obviously the first course here is to move through the zoning planning process to make sure that we can build something.
Yep.
And that something is going to be essentially this. But in terms of accommodations that are appropriate to be made and reasonable, the company certainly is willing to listen to them.
Sure, that's again very comforting.
I have a question about the aesthetics and the viewscape of that area.
Yeah.
It's fairly well into the site, but it's somewhat close to the bike path. Did you do any viewscapes of what it would look like from the bike path at all?
Well, a couple interesting thoughts in that regard.
Okay.
I did some rough calculations expecting to have
Mhm.
part of this discussion. I believe that the current building, and this is in close proximity to the
Yeah.
current building, that's approximately 2,200 feet from Balltown Road. Similarly, the complex is about 3,300 feet from River Road. And I believe about 1,500 feet or more to the nearest residence. It obviously would be visible, I think, from the Mohawk River. I don't, this is going to be shorter than the tallest of the existing buildings by, probably 7-8 feet. And keep in mind, the height of this building is probably it's engineered to not take full advantage of a taller building, but it's engineered to be as low as possible with the lowest slope in the roof design and the lowest pinch points on the steel inside.
So my question comes, if I look at the building here and I'm looking at a overview of the site and see where the bike path is, and the bike path's on this trail, it looks like it's on, you can see it with the dark line there.
Yeah.
What
I
side is the
believe that's right,
glass?
yeah.
Yeah, what side is the glass of the building on, and so the orientation is hard
So
to
yeah,
see.
so the
from
glass
here.
of the building, I believe, would be on this side.
Okay.
It would be on the interior. Am I correct in that, Carl?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah, so it wouldn't be reflective or
mhm.
necessarily viewed from the bike path. And, the building is sort of what I would call a popular color these days, gray, right? It seems like cabinets and buildings and siding on houses, it's all gray, right? So maybe that's chosen for a particular reason to sort of be mute and not stand out in the environment.
And what is the rest of the building? Is it masonry? Is it paneled? Is it stucco?
It's a prefabricated metal building.
Okay,
Prefabricated metal building.
Put that rendering back up.
it's important because we actually generate the notes of the meeting from the audio, so.
My apologies. Yeah, as you can see, that's a metal sided building. So
Okay.
that side, I mean, basically that's what the rest of the building's going to look like.
Mhm.
The other end, the only thing in the other end is a man door and a 12-foot wide overhead door so that we can get our equipment in and out of the
So
building.
there's no other windows or anything? It's just,
No. As you can see, if you look to the left side, behind the tree, those are a little higher, right? Those are actually just light panels. It's not glass.
Mhm.
They're
Okay.
just translucent panels to let light into the high bay.
Is it single floor or all just one floor with a high ceiling?
So
I mean, is it two
Yes.
floors or all just one floor with a high ceiling?
So that front area is a lobby area that's about 30 feet deep. Okay, so that would be a 2-story lobby area. Okay, behind that would be about another 15-foot wide, 20-foot wide mezzanine that is strictly for our equipment, for HVAC, power, things like that. So essentially, it's a 1-story building. Everything's going to happen on one floor. That front corner of the building is the only area there's a conference room. There's
This front corner here.
yep, that's where the conference room is. Then you have a main lobby, and then wide open to the main lobby is we have a small kitchenette for drinks and snacks and things like that. There's bathrooms, and then the rest of it is high bay space. Now, the question I think you asked before was, did we do a rendering from the bike path? Is that what I
Yes.
heard you say?
Yeah.
We have not. I've been down on the bike path when we started looking at this project, and you can barely see the facilities that is there now.
Yeah, I'm trying to visualize in my mind, because I know what the existing looks like. One of the things is that area of the bike path is very popular and people really like the scenery. So I was just trying to understand the impact
Sure.
on that. The other question I had was the roof size. You're going to get additional drain off of water. You don't have any additional parking lot, I'm assuming, but how are you going to handle that water?
So our civil engineer here has designed us a stormwater management system. It's part of the site design.
Mm-hmm.
It is on those drawings. If you
Okay.
wanted to
Want to
flip,
speak to that?
So I don't see anything here that, for like solar.
Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Good evening, Peter Lilholt from CT Mel. So as Carl described, so the roof sheet from the top of the page toward the
Mhm.
bottom of the page, and then we have roof drain collection systems and scuppers. Sure. So the roof slopes this way.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got a roof drain collection system, and there's storm pipes. It's hard pipe through here, and you can see the storm line, and it brings it to, this is the proposed stormwater management area.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got pre-treatment, there's a 4-bay in the front, bioretention basin, and a stormwater management practice to mitigate both water quality and stormwater quantity controls in accordance with the New York State Stormwater Management Design
Mhm.
Manual.
And is that just for the roof, or is that,
It's for all of the impervious area. We've done
okay, so that's the
modeling.
whole site then?
It's for the whole site. We have a diversion swale here, reading the contours that take the uphill runoff away from the stormwater management area, but we're collecting and treating from all of the impervious areas.
Are you replacing an existing system other than that swale, or
No,
no? Okay.
The bioretention,
The retention area that's there, will that be primarily dry with the PVC and pebbles
exactly.
collecting what's underneath?
Yeah, it's per the standard practice of the New York State Stormwater Management Design Manual. So there's a soil filtration layer and then an under drain system beneath.
My question stems from the wildlife corridor perspective. Again, most of the wildlife moves through suburban areas, and with your acreage, as you are aware, there's a fair amount of wildlife surrounding you. And it seems that the bioretention area that is there could actually be a little bit of a conduit for the animals that may be attracted by the crab apples. And I think that could work effectively connecting the area as well with the bike path and then with the Mohawk beyond that. My question, pertains to the HVAC equipment in the building that will be facing in that direction towards the bio retention area.
Mhm.
Is that going to have a high level of noise? Are you going to have 25 units running, 30 units?
Okay, Laura, if you're the one sharing, if you can go back to one of the site layout plans, that any one of those is fine. I can point to, that's fine. What's shown here is, you see, this is one of the, there's two ground mounted HVAC units on this side, which you can see is pretty distant from the bioretention area. And then behind the building, this is where we have other mechanical equipment, chillers and such. And we've intentionally located them there, not only on the back side of the building, but we're cutting down the slope to fit the building in there. So there's kind of a natural attenuation by virtue of the topography.
So there's no
Wonderful.
HVAC units on the roof then?
No.
And the research itself for the cooling process and that system, have you looked at the noise generation from that?
Honestly, I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer that question. I'm not a mechanical engineer.
The equipment itself for the process is not anything other than standard HVAC equipment. I did not pay special attention to, let me rephrase that. I do not believe we're buying anything out of the ordinary that would have an exorbitant sound emission.
I only ask because the surrounding area has a lot of endangered species and birds as well, and some young eagles. And if it's, the level of an ATV snowmobile trail, that could affect the thickness of the eggshells. But between the plantings and the building, it's your opinion that that would be a sufficient buffer?
Yes, I believe that to be true.
Here, I'm having a hard time reading the contours, but are you saying that like the left side of this yellow building, that's not a slope down, like over here? This is actually sort of a cut, and this is sloping up away from the building?
All very good questions, and much appreciated. So you can see the connection, and sorry, Charles, borrow that again. So we've got this narrow corridor connection to the existing building, and we're also tying in, this is an existing parking lot that we're actually cutting back the pavement and creating sidewalk and access here in the front. That's where the glass front you saw from the rendering. So we're kind of locked in from a grade standpoint from the connection to the parking lot, as well as this corridor connection. We're matching the finished floor of this existing building and the proposed building. And in doing so, this area was previously disturbed when this building had been expanded a couple different times. And so they had cut the slope in through here, and then it slopes up. That's exactly what we're doing here. We actually have an earth cut, and these are contours showing how we would cut down. This is high here, we're sloping down, and then and so it's all this is relatively one level matching what's here now.
That should help a lot with the sound, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, and I had another question while you have that pointer there. So
Sure.
at the Economic Development Committee meeting,
Mhm.
they asked what this foundation is over there.
I'll let Charles answer that question.
Yeah, sure. This is the subject of a DEC easement. And there is a stone foundation that's an old farmhouse foundation within this perimeter that's established. That foundation is expected to be removed. We're waiting for appropriate approval from DEC to allow that. This is the only easement or restricted area in the 195 acres that was deeded to the Vernova Real Estate Holding Company. We're expecting that approval from DEC very, very shortly. So the idea is to remove that stone foundation, that old farmhouse foundation, and to grade down in that area. If for any reason that weren't to be approved by DEC, then we would simply do a retaining wall here
And just keep the footprint the same way
and
they
keep the
did it.
footprint the same. Yes.
Was it a deed restriction from the DEC because it was originally historical?
No, it was a restriction because I think there, back in the day, I think there might have been some VOCs or pesticides, you know, when this was a farm. So soil analysis has been taken to DEC, and it's been cleared. We're simply just waiting for the approval to remove that from the easement.
So
So it was a contamination concern, not a historic site.
Yeah, that's what it was. It wasn't a historic site.
Yeah, because I was wondering why it was DEC and not SHPO. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you know, there, in broader context, the entire GRC at one point in time was the subject of the RECRA. And it has been reduced. The only remaining portion in the 195 acres is this little area here. And we're expecting, as I say, DEC approval for removal of that and the regrading.
So over time, the chemicals abated and you've done new soils testing. And if DEC feels it's safe, they would release that.
That is correct, yes.
Did that site require any maintenance by GE or long-term monitoring, or was it just
No,
sitting there?
no.
So
Chuck, Chuck, do you have a question at all?
No, thank you. Actually, my question was actually around the noise around the potential HVAC system, and that's been asked. So thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Isha.
you mentioned Vernova Real Estate Company. Like, what is that?
Yeah, most corporations separate their operating company from their real estate holding company. And that's no exception. The actual name of the Vernova's real estate holding company, I believe, is GE Renewables LLC. And they hold title to the real estate, and it's used and operated by the operating company, which is GE Vernova, or will be come April.
So, okay, I did not know that companies like to do this.
So I'm going to bring the planting plan to the CAC tomorrow, actually, but I have to say, I don't know if this is because GE has its own kind of sustainability people. I know Carol Perry, I think, used to work at this facility, but really excited to see American hornbeam as a proposed planted tree. That's a native understory tree for us. These are actually all native, and happy to see natives.
I think there was a considerable amount of thought put into the planting schedule.
Yeah, it's very nice. So asters, gay feathers, grasses, fragrant sumac, and American hornbeam. Like it.
Did the tree council have any
The tree
input on
ca-
this?
No, they're gonna look at it tomorrow. And like my guess is that they'll probably ask for more trees, but I do like this initial pass, and they may want some on the edges of the clearings. We'll see what they say. But as far as species go, this is what we keep asking developers to do, and GE just did it. So that's very nice.
Yeah, and it was my expectation that this would be a vehicle for discussion.
Yeah, we really want to see the natives, and I was very excited to see the hornbeam. I have not seen that on a plan before. That's a great tree.
How many trees of diameter, say a foot or more, will be lost as a result of this development?
I'm told not many of any significance. That the area to be disturbed that's shown as that was on that previous slide. We could maybe
Yeah.
bring that back up.
Oh, I was going to bring this part up because I do think this is helpful showing that it's mostly not.
Yeah, this is not what I would call, a heavily forested area. There's a lot of scrub in there. When I inquired of the company in preparation for this meeting, I think the idea was that there might be a couple, three trees in there that might be worth saving, that will need to go.
If I could just add to that, there may be a handful of mature trees, but it's certainly not forested. But this is secondary growth around that whole old foundation at one point in time. I can't say with certainty there's nothing over 12 inches, but I did not see, any significant mature trees there when I was out there. Much of it kind of butts up, and it was previously disturbed. There's sumac and understory and thorns and so on like that.
I believe the stone foundation is in this area right here.
And that's the stone foundation of question.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
So I just have a question in the spirit of what the research is that's going to be going on and what you're looking to accomplish. Are you planning on making this a building that is energy net zero by some solar panels?
I haven't seen any intention to put solar panels on the building, no.
I think we should ask for Charles to take back looking at the birch type glass and looking at places that could potentially support solar panels.
Since the emphasis behind it is in the direction, I assume, right? That's the idea.
Well,
It's too
as you probably know, there are solar panels over at the GRC along River Road. You
Right.
can see them from River Road.
And right. And how much energy are they a net zero for GE over there?
I doubt that would be the case.
Yeah, I didn't
But I
think
don't know
so.
that
So
for
I'm just saying it would be, this would.
You're talking about the solar panels up front.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was a research project that came before this committee. I don't think it was the intent to ever make the site net zero.
No, I
That
know,
was
I'm
not the
just,
intent.
you're putting up something to take carbon out of the, out of the atmosphere for,
I guess the
Well, that in
question,
and of itself ought to be a joy, right?
I guess the
yes, but in the
question,
process of us doing all that research, perhaps
Yeah.
we can, wrap it in green energy.
I
I
had
guess the
one-
question would be is, would GE consider putting solar panels either on the site or on the roof? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
I-
it's a new construction, so,
I'll make the ask.
right? And
So-
then the only other thing I would just say is that within the, the only other thing that concerns me is within the GE property that they own that and it is, I would just, would be the invasive species and the, in the process to trying to mitigate some of that and to keep an eye on, invasive species that are within the property. But it's just another,
That's actually what I was going to say about this. The majority of vegetation that I have observed on GE on this part of the land has been very much like a buckthorn scrub. And I don't know why there's so much buckthorn there. But if this is representative of anything on this parcel along Balltown Road, it's like all buckthorn.
that's it.
Well, this all dovetails into, I suppose, my ask. The planting schedule that you have, that Laura was commending you on, will that extend to the bioretention area? Will you use native plantings in there?
I can't answer that. Peter, maybe you can?
as you may well know, there is a landscaping schedule that's built into the appendix of the New York State Stormwater Management Design Manual. So they provide guidance on the type of plantings that should be used, whether it's inundated with water or periodic. So they give some suggestions, but we will certainly take into consideration the desire to use native species, and it's been reflected, and we appreciate I'll take that back to my landscape architect. She'll be very pleased to hear that it was well received.
Absolutely, native and non-invasive.
Non-invasive.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Are there any other questions?
I've just wanted, it doesn't
yeah.
look like it from the renderings, but is there any additional parking for the additional employees?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, there's 330 parking spots that serve the two buildings. If you take into account, there's two different methodologies in your code for computing the required parking for facilities of this nature. One is based upon the number of employees, and I think the ratio is 2 spaces per 3 employees, right? And then the other ratio is 1 space for every 300 square feet of building space, right? What isn't taken into account by all of that is that the vast majority of the existing building and the vast majority of the building to be constructed is going to be laboratory space or space that's occupied by tooling or machinery and equipment. So it's very difficult to use the 300 square foot per space formula, because that would result in a requirement for this property, for these properties, of 427 parking spaces, which would require an increase in what we have by some 90 spots, and the addition of more impermeable surface, which I don't think is environmentally friendly at all, particularly when the parking simply isn't required to support the use of these buildings. So our thought is A, address this to the planning board and ask for a waiver, or B, ask for a variance from the zoning board of appeals. I would prefer to go the route of the waiver, because I think we can provide metrics to support the need for a waiver. Between the usage of these buildings being at least 50% or more of laboratory space, really only having approximately 110 or 112 people expected to be at the facility after this building is built, I can't see the need for creating another 92 spots to get up to 427 spaces. So I think that's an excellent question. And I'm glad you asked it, because I really feel it would be doing a disservice to this property by having to put in more macadam.
Yeah, I certainly support that viewpoint. One of the things that the town has done in the past is put parking spaces in reserve, which means they're grassed over and it's not really noticeable. And that might be an option to pursue.
Yeah, I've seen that done in a lot of different site plans in different municipalities, and it's not the worst idea in the world. I can't see that those would ever be needed, but it's an idea that's worth exploring as we work through the
Yeah, and
site
I'm
plan
definitely
process.
not a proponent for big parking.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah.
You have my support. I'm just,
Yeah, we could add that to any of our recommendations. I definitely would not like to see more parking built there.
Yeah, and I think I can demonstrate with metrics why a waiver would be appropriate.
is
Yeah.
that something the planning board?
So yeah,
can
just the
grant?
nuances of our code is that when you pursue the waiver with the planning board, I believe it's up to 30%, but you do have to show on site that you could build it in the future. It does not need to be prepped, but you do have to show. And obviously on a parcel like
Thank you,
this,
Rast.
it would be extremely
Yeah.
easy to show, but you don't have to remove trees. You don't have to prep. You don't have to mow. You just have to show that you have space. If you go to the zoning board, you do not need to show. You just get a straight up variance, and the parking spaces are never required in the
Right.
future.
That's good to hear. Very good information, Laura. I mean, if you look at the aerial images,
You're gonna
No,
have room if you
it-
ever need it.
we'll never use the parking. So it would be to remove vegetation, to prepare a surface that will never be utilized.
Yeah, you don't have to do that in our code. You just have to show that it could fit.
Certainly, there's enough real estate on the property, on the 195 acres to construct parking. It's just,
Since I've been a planner, we've done multiple waivers at the planning board and never had to build the parking. So, I think codes were enacted in a time when there was a lot of deference to cars, and that large parking lots actually have detrimental effects both on sites and on neighborhoods and on businesses. So although our code hasn't been resolved, I think that the town is very amenable to not over parking your property.
Yeah, so it's my plan, picking up on this, to do a request for a waiver, to go in, to the planning
To the planning
board.
board.
Yeah, and it'll be part of our discussion, I guess, on Monday.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. The planning board loves to do the waivers. They
that
get a little
gladdens my
sad when it
heart.
goes to the
Yeah.
zoning board, but the difference with the planning board waivers is you do have to show that you could build it. The zoning board, you do not have to do that for.
Well,
Go ahead.
Go
Are there any other questions that the board would like to ask?
no questions, but if I may say two things. The CAC and indeed the town of Niskayuna would like better connection to General Electric. I think it's no exaggeration that you are the largest landowner in the town by a big margin. And if you look at the agenda packet, there's like pesticide-free initiative, natural resources inventory, climate smart task force, all that, right? And we would love to work closely with GE on any number of these projects. But I think the sad reality is outside of these formal communications, there is no connection between like everything that we are doing and everything that you're doing, which, as I previously mentioned, all of these things that we want to do are very closely aligned with your own sustainability plans. The second thing that I wanted to say is, I just returned from a summer in India, and I'm a big fan of carbon capture and pollutant capture from the environment. I think it has a lot of potential to address some very nasty respiratory problems in some, including my birth country, right? So I wish all the engineers and scientists the very best of luck.
Okay. What I'd like to do is I'd like to ask Laura, what are the next steps in this project? Have you been in front of the planning board? I know. that you
Nope,
gotta
they're gonna go on Monday, and we wanted to give the CAC the opportunity to hear the project this time.
Mhm.
You do not need to take action tonight based on their timeline. You'd still have another meeting. You can take action if you feel like you've heard enough. But you can also just wait and see if, they can give you more details on any changes to the site, or if you just want to make that conditions of a review tonight. Because of their timelines with the zoning board, they will be on the zoning board for March 16th or something like that. So they'll definitely have another meeting before you guys,
Okay.
if you needed that.
Personally, I would like to go out to the bike trail again and look and try to visualize the site, but I'm willing to do whatever the board's pleasure is right now.
I'd like to wait until the next meeting. We have some important questions about like bird strikes, solar panels and all that. So I'd like to see some answers before. Actually, this is not rushed. That's just my opinion.
Anybody disagree with waiting to the next meeting? Okay, well, I'd like to thank you. This was really informative. We appreciate your answers. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your time. We'll see you soon,
In about a month.
about a month.
And thank you.
Well, the NRI is the Natural Resources Inventory is next on the agenda. So, there's no requirement, of course, but please accept our invitation to observe that process.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay.
I'm going to meet with my folks in the hallway, but I'll be quiet.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
okay. let's move on to discussion items, and we have an item. So is Jim online?
Yep, he's
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, great. So Shook, this is your part of the meeting. Why don't you
this
take it
is
away?
my part of the meeting. Okay, so with us via video conference is the legendary Jim Nordgren.
You hear that, Peggy?
Of JN Land Trust Services. So he will be our consultant for the natural resources inventory project going forward. So Jim and I talked on the phone, and I invited him to this meeting. Jim, thank you for attending and listening patiently and staying with us for an hour. So the next step should be a meeting with CIC representatives, town representatives, Jim, and representatives from the funding agency, Mohawk River Watershed Program. This is actually a requirement of the grant to have the agency be part of initial meetings. So I'd like to put together a working group with representatives from the CAC. Oh, student representative, I'm looking at you. So we need people from the high school, okay? We need people from the high school. We need people from the high school. We need people from the high school. So we are hoping you can help us recruit some.
Yeah, I can. I actually run the Niskayuna's Interact Club, which is related to climate. So I'm sure all the members would be interested in being a part of that. So I can definitely recruit them and, find other people who are also interested.
Any particular day of the week that we should avoid or target for high school students?
I think all the days are busy. So I think I can just discuss with everybody to figure out maybe certain days that are more busier than others.
We're
But
talking about virtual meeting? Are we
Yeah,
talking-
this one will be a virtual meeting.
yeah, what time would it be?
Well, yeah, based on experiences with the past phase one of the NRI, the time that seems to work for most people is between 3 and 5 p.m.
Yeah, I think that would be best. I can check back and give
Okay.
a better update, but
And Jim and I talked on the phone, and we are hoping to schedule this initial consultation around the 4th week of February. And obviously from the CAC, I will take the lead, but I really would like 1 or 2 more people from the CAC to join me in recruiting people from the town, working closely with Jim and so on. And Jim, do you have anything to add?
I'd like to share a couple slides. Can I try to do that?
Yeah, go ahead. You were definitely sharing your screen before. I don't know if you heard me say that. It was working.
Okay. Oh, okay. Let me see.
Yep.
Can you see any of this?
Yep, we can see a presentation that says natural resource inventory.
Okay. And I'm going to run through this very quickly.
You could
when we
probably
go-
hit your full screen button, I think, on the slide, maybe.
What's that?
Do you want to hit the full screen button on your slide?
To present?
Let me see. I thought I did.
Yeah, there you
No?
go.
Okay. So I'll be brief because we went through a lot of this in 2022 when I had the pleasure of doing, I guess it's called phase 1 of the NRI. But I only have a few slides. It won't be more than 10 minutes. I always like to start with a reminder that an NRI is required by New York state law. And that's always helpful because a lot of times people ask, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? The pat answer is it's required. Now, of course, it's not. No one's going to go to jail if you don't have it. But this is the enabling legislation from the state. And what's encouraging to see is that
Jim,
your own counts. Yes?
there's something weird, and I've noticed this when I do my economic development committee meeting with PowerPoint. You are going to have your presentation mode doesn't work for us, so you're going to have to individually click on the slides. We can still see them, but you're going to have to individually click on them with a not presentation mode.
Let me, do you
Because I
think,
can see
does
your
that work, Laura?
Yeah, can you? So if you click on your second there, so
Perfect.
yeah,
Okay.
so now we can see
Thank
the
you. Yep.
presentation. Yeah.
This is great because it just took me 3 or 4 years to learn how to advance slides on Zoom. And now I can learn how to advance slides on Google in a few years. That's a joke. It's also nice that the town's comprehensive plan endorses the idea of a natural resource inventory. You don't have to read that. The goals of an NRI, and we can add to these, are obviously identifying important natural resources unique to your town and the region, identifying the threats. You all know what those are. We don't have to read through them. And what I think is the most important thing that makes a natural resource inventory effective is to make recommendations, identifying options and strategies. A lot of natural resource inventories stop at the first two, and that makes for a good kind of nature guide. But we all want to protect open space and have more effective zoning regulations to protect the natural resources. So to me, the critical thing of an NRI is to come up with some recommendations. The echoing on what Ashok was saying, with student participation, anytime any project is done with public participation, with residents, with voters, with students, with experts, it has much more power and suasion to the powers that be. So we call this people power. And when I was last there in 2022, we were able to do a couple field walks and presentations. And my hope, and I know that one of the underlying goals, obviously, of the grant was public participation. So what we did 2 years ago, had a great picture. There's a landfill that is now home to grassland birds that are endangered. It really doesn't get any better than that as far as ecological restoration. But here we are taking a hike at the old landfill at Blatnick Park. And we want to do as many of those as people want to do. Again, with participation being so important, I'd also mention it's the fun part, right? So, whether we're PhDs or whether we just like looking at plants, any of us can, I just pick these for fun. If we hear a field sparrow, we know we've got some good grassland. If we hear a blue-winged warbler or see one, we know we've got some valuable shrub habitat. If we see more likely hear a scarlet tanager, we know we have very important interior forest land. If we see or hear a bobcat or on a trail cam or ring camera even, we know we've got a nice matrix of different types of habitats because that's what the bobcat requires. And same if we see a box turtle or really sadly at this point, any type of turtle, a wood turtle or a spotted turtle. The box turtle's endangered because it also, like the bobcat, needs a variety of habitats. Sand to lay eggs in, forest and shrub, and sunny, sometimes power lines to sun in. Just a couple more slides. We don't just wing it. We are disciplined and look forward to working with the Mohawk River people. And we go by this guidebook, which is the Bible, I think, put out by the Hudson River Estuary program, how to do an NRI. So we will follow that. But as I said, it's identifying the natural resources, identifying the threats, and coming up with ways to protect the natural resources. I made just 3 maps here, then I'll be done. These are the 10 town-owned parcels that we will be inventorying in phase 2. You can see them there, and they're listed on the upper right-hand side. The let me see. Okay, and this slide incorporates the previous properties that we inventoried 2 years ago. So that's the community center, number 1, number 11. Number 12 is the buffer lands, including General Electric along the northern part of the Mohawk hiking bike trail. And 13 is Blatnick Park. So the point of this slide is to say that we're getting there. You know, we're starting to be able to get a good grasp by inventorying all these parcels of what's going on in Niskayuna. This is a slide that shows in green, a little difficult to see, property that's owned by the town, some protected as park, some town owned. Also the conservation group holdings like Hudson Mohawk Bird Club and Nature Conservancy. But in red are private properties. And these are large private properties that from satellite photographs appear to be fairly woodsy and undeveloped. Now, we're not going to be walking on private property. We're not going to be invading privacy. We're not going to name these properties. But I think what's really important when we have an inventory on parcels that are fairly scattered across Niskayuna is to look and to see how other properties next to them might somehow are important for wildlife corridors and stormwater control and habitat, et cetera, and see how we might work with some of those neighbors. If anyone, for instance, voluntarily wanted to put a conservation easement on their land or was open to land acquisition, something like that. So it's more than just looking at a dozen or so properties owned by the town. It's, you know, how does the matrix of other properties around those influence the town properties that we're going to inventory? So I'm not sure what we'll find, but you know, perhaps we'll find that some of these town properties can be connected to schools. Perhaps we can see in brown there, those are farm properties that get farm assessments. So you still have farms in Niskayuna, believe it or not. You know, making up conjecture here, maybe a town park can be tied into a school through a trail, tied into a farm. I mean, I'm looking right in the center of Niskayuna at River Road, for instance. So that's another critical part of the inventory, is to see how the matrix of surrounding properties can affect the town property and also might be additive. The last slide I'm going to show you, Ashok was talking a lot about corridors, and we know the importance of wildlife moving across different properties. And you can get a general sense, and we'll refine this, but a general sense looking at these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 conservation focus areas. I've just made that up. How you can see there are connections here. And the nice thing about an inventory is it will show you, you know, kind of the missing links, the hole in the donut, where conservation efforts could be focused. And as I said, it could be land acquisition, conservation easements. It might just be education, and it might be working with private landowners, as you were talking to GE about native plants and invasives, talking to private landowners about how they can maintain their property in a ecologically sensitive way to protect, to aid in bird migration, wildlife movement, and even long-term movement of wildlife and plants in response to higher temperatures and due to climate change. The last one I just made up when I was listening intently on the GE presentation. how the NRI can also be used to look at individual projects. So if I did this right, you can see the GE building and the proposed new building for carbon capture. And it looks like there are a lot of wetland soils in that area. So that might be an interesting thing to ask about. Again, that's hypothetical. That's how an NRI can be used by people in town, by commissions and in town to evaluate projects and to suggest ways to make projects more ecologically sensitive. That's my presentation, and I wanted to emphasize NRI goals here at the bottom, and so we'd like to have a lot of input. This is just my basic idea of what are important natural resources to all of you and the threats and the options. So we want to have a lot of input from the public on what we should be looking at. And I think I skipped this. Did I skip that? Yeah, I skipped that. So this is important too. This is a list of, I guess we call them stakeholders, people, you have a lot of people in your town that are expert in different things related to the environment. And this is just, the bunch I've come up with off the top of my head. Ashok, you'll see the High School Environmental Club there, and many other groups in town that we hope will participate in this NRI, because when we have a lot of participation, that people power, it's very influential.
Jim, could you share those slides with us?
Oh, sure.
If you send it to me via email, I can send it to the CAC.
I would be
Actually,
happy
it'd
to.
be really good to put it up on our website.
Yeah, that was an excellent presentation, Jim. Really liked it.
Oh, thanks, Laura. Nice. You liked it because it was short.
No, it could have been much longer.
No, it was very,
You're very kind.
I actually think it will be a great introduction to the NRI effort.
Good.
We can definitely do that.
Well, could you get us time on a town board meeting?
I could definitely ask. I think that would be a great presentation for the town board to see.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it would be great if you can get us time, and if Jim can't make it to the town board virtually, then I'm happy to come in person and make the same presentation.
Yeah, but that worked very well virtually. And if
Yeah.
I could plan it with him, I can make sure that the slides are full screen.
Okay. So regarding next steps, Laura is going to look into making the same presentation in front of the town board. Jim, would you be okay with speaking in front of the town board again with the same presentation virtually?
I'd be honored.
Okay, thank you. And then I will get on about scheduling a meeting for a citizens working group. I have Georgia volunteer to help, which is super awesome. And I will ask Simran for the students. Any other recommendations for, collecting a wide range of people?
I would definitely ask the tree council.
Okay.
And I actually know that we had representatives from Complete Streets
Okay.
on that committee.
Yeah, we did, Bill.
Um,
What, were you raising your hand, Ellen?
Yeah, once you have your date, I know the last full week in February, I think it's
Second
great.
to last. The 19th, the week
The
of the
19th.
19th, I won't be able to do,
Okay, so, all
Okay.
right, so I just want to let you know that school will be out.
which
You
means
know,
lots
so-
of people are
Okay.
gone.
yeah,
So it means
okay.
that,
we may
you
have
know,
to rethink that then.
what
Okay,
I'm just,
could-
throwing it
may
out
need
as a
to be
date. And then
March.
I definitely would send, if you create, like an invite on what it is,
Mhm.
I'd be happy. I was thinking, for sure, Roy Thornton and, his, and, his, friend that does the, actual bird counting for us in Niskayuna. And, I also would, definitely do the Boy and Girl Scout clubs, troops, to their main people, because I feel like these are patch-worthy, things that we could if we give them, enough, if you create something that you would like to do, I can find the peeps or, well, she knows the Girl Scouts. And I could probably, I know someone that knows the Boy Scouts, so I could get, an email to them and, start that. And then, yeah, and I mean, besides the, the high school, I mean, I would also target the two middle schools.
Okay.
Just send them to, I mean, we have a lot of earth science,
Okay.
not just in ninth grade, but, also in the kids take it in middle school.
Okay.
So I think that, it can't hurt to send, if once the email is created, welcome to, if you'd like to get involved, here's who you contact, this is what we're doing, kind of thing. And then,
Okay.
those are my suggestions.
So permit me to say something deeply unpopular, please. And I am aware that this is being recorded. So, speaking as a former employee of the State Department, like I'm always in favor of building bridges. I would really like to have like a developer part of the working group, like
That's not an unpopular thing to
Yeah.
say.
yeah,
There's-
a land developer to be part of the working group. Like I think a lot can be gained by working closely with developers and not treating them like the adversary. I would really like to have some representation from land developers.
That's not a bad thing to say. They're
I would agree with
stakeholders.
that.
Yeah, private
Okay.
private landowners are a very important stakeholder to reach.
Okay.
Actually,
When I said my reach out, I was just going to reach out to people who were in the areas of the map that you've created, Jim, and even starting with some of my neighbors in the Bakerwood area, from people who are walking to people who have animals in their backyards now, to try and engage them. I think as we look at the corridors, that there will be movement across their back and front yards. And if we get them involved, they may be more open to green landscaping or even easements. I think getting them involved can help smooth the path.
yeah, I agree.
And Laura, could you connect me with a couple of land developers?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, you guys probably don't know them necessarily as well as we do, but I don't know if you remember the Lomo area on Catherine's Woods. We had Barbera Homes. They're one of the premier, like Frank lives on Catherine's Wood Road. He came out, said what's going on, and
Yeah,
had
I
a good conversation with a couple of us, and was very fine with it. Like there's lots of, and with listening, there's lots of really good developers out there that
It would be
listen.
helpful to get a land developer that was a Niskuna resident.
Yeah, well, so what, and I'm just going to put this, like, what's interesting though is that the major developers of the area, like Barbera Homes and Amador Homes and, a lot of those guys, we just don't have the land left for them. They're not like coming into Niskuna and looking for places anymore. They're mostly in Clifton Park. They're mostly in Colony, because they still have a lot of open land. We can ask them, but what we're seeing, like what Clark and I are seeing, is that because the land that's left in Niskuna is so difficult to develop, like the big guys aren't taking it on. It's really difficult. And so we're getting people who are not particularly well versed in development, developing these difficult parcels. And we don't have a crystal ball to know who that's going to be. We can certainly reach out to the developers that are the big players in our area. Like Barbera Homes lives in Niskuna. Frank lives in Niskuna.
Well,
But-
what I'm thinking of the role of the developer, right, would provide a perspective that on perhaps its economic value, build a building,
I think-
buildability
I
and stuff like that. And that goes into when we get to the part of strategies and what the worth of the property is
Oh yeah, I
and the
definitely.
evaluation. So I think there's an important perspective. So we want someone who perhaps is knowledgeable of the area. I
Yeah, I
wouldn't
think we should-
recommend we get someone who's just doing a one development here and a one development there.
Well, they're the big companies, but they live around here.
I mean, I was just
Roski used
saying,
to live in Niskuna.
I was just saying a resident, if we could have a builder who's a resident, then that they have a vested interest.
Well, yeah, so we could ask Frank, but he's already on our architectural review board, so I don't know how much he can volunteer.
Well,
One of the developers was like building one of the 4 homes. Right?
Oh, we could ask Joel Bezoin too. I mean,
Who?
Yeah.
Keld's farm developer.
Okay.
Yeah. He lives in Niskuna too.
What about Bennett? I think Bennett.
Bennett, I think lives in Colony, but I mean, we could certainly ask them.
we should just identify
Yeah.
these, and we can identify these offline.
Okay.
I think that's more appropriate. Okay,
I think we can let Jim go. Thank you so much,
Thank you, Jim.
And
Thank
we
you.
are so excited to be working with you again.
I'm excited to be coming back to Niskayuna.
Thanks, Jim.
thank you.
Thank
for
you. Bye-bye.
Bye. That was excellent. Okay. Let's change gears and go to the Climate Smart Communities Task Force items. So, do we have, goals and updates, Laura?
I mean, I actually still haven't done an outline of the goals for you guys yet, but I did speak with the contractor that we identified to do the greenhouse gas inventories and the climate action plan, also named Jim. And he's going to be getting a schedule to me shortly, and we'll set up a meeting with you guys shortly as well. And I think he's basically going to outline the goals for me because I think I was talking to the tree council about this, but the state of New York, or nicer, no, I think it's the state of New York, the Capital District Regional Planning Commission has just released the Clean Energy Communities Round 3. So in my discussions with our contractor who's going to help try and get us certified, we're really shooting for July. So we're going to have a pretty accelerated timeline on doing our greenhouse gas inventories and our climate action plan. Because if we don't submit by July, then we have to wait until all the way next year. And what he would like to do is dovetail our certification in with the Clean Energy Communities program to try and maximize what we're doing. So we'll have that scheduled to you definitely by the next meeting, and just go from there.
Okay. Do we anticipate a meeting with him?
Yeah, he will either do what Jim Nordgren just did, which is come to a CAC meeting, because you guys are the CAC and the Climate Smart Communities Task Force
Right.
now.
Okay, good.
Or he can do something separate.
Okay.
He was well aware of your time of your normal monthly meeting, though. That time was known to him. He
And
must
he's
have.
local.
He's from Connecticut too, maybe,
Oh, okay.
or Massachusetts. Mm.
Okay. Bethlehem Conservation Easement Program, do you have anything? I know you wanted to make a presentation to the board.
Yes, last we left off, that's where we left off. Like we had our ducks in order. You have seen my spiel. They do have some very nice things, but that's the next step.
I wonder though if we should focus a little bit on the MRI presentation in the town board right now. because
That's
the
fair. That's fair.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes sense because we're kicking that off.
Yeah, I think that will have a lot of really positive energy too.
One thing I think would be helpful, and I'm going to cross committees, is, and I forget, did we share that with the comprehensive plan committee? The
What?
write-up that you wrote with?
No.
We should do that. We make that happen. Okay, natural resource inventory, we've just covered that, so we can move on. Pesticide, Ellen, do you have anything?
Nothing new on pesticide, and just, But in regard, I'll just do the composting while I'm,
Mhm.
so with the composting, so, we have, I believe it's, Jean and, uh, and Ray, so they had a meeting and they decided where they're going to put the compost, at the senior center. So they were going to meet last week without us and then let us know what they had decided. So I was hoping to send her, if I didn't hear from somebody by the end of the week, I would send them an email.
Mhm.
So there'll be, so as soon as we get that, as soon as we get the site, then I can get the composting bin there. And we can start working on the communication to the town in order to be able to get people to sign up for it.
Okay.
I just like my update on the pesticide outreach is that Ellen has been asking me to get it on the website, back on the website again. I'm super close. I actually have all of the documents uploaded. I'm just not able to get into the websites, and I put in a ticket to my IT and they came over and looked at my computer and said it's because I don't have permissions and they need to help me. And so I'm hoping tomorrow or the next day I'll be able to get that up.
Okay, good.
Oh, and Laura, like along the same topic, like the old website used to have phase 1 of the NRI.
I'm doing all of them.
Yeah.
So what I was trying to do is, because our new website has more functionality than our old one, and I can actually create pages within pages, which I was not able to do at the last one. So I tried to create a page for the natural resource. So they would all be connected into the original Conservation Advisory Council page. But I can do you can click on the sidebar and it'll actually take you to a page of natural resources inventory. It's kind of like our old website. It sort of looks like that, but I would be able to take anything that we wanted to write for natural resource inventory, and then it could have its own sidebar with all the documents that you want. So you can have like little mini pages for all the initiatives. So I made one for composting. I made one for so I can't remember because for the pesticide free, we also have all of those months of taking care of your grass, which I was trying to decide if that should be its own page or that should just all be part of pesticide free. And then I have the natural resources inventory, and then I'm going to put a climate smart page in there. The town did adopt the Quiet Niskayuna, and I know that Vicky, Michaela, and John Marr want to move that a little bit farther now. So potentially we could do a page for that. And when we get our maps up and ready, we could do a wildlife corridor page too. Once they give me permissions, it's not terrible. I worked really hard on the comprehensive plan page, which is ready now for the public. But I ran into a snafu with the CAC page because I'm trying to make the little mini pages.
Mhm. Okay, good. Okay, LOMO biodiversity initiatives.
We're just waiting on spring for that. We bought the seeds
Okay,
and we
we
just
have the
Yeah,
seeds.
and
we're
I
ready to
Yes.
go.
think, and we're going to continue with what we have set for Lomo for that,
Mhm.
for the town for this year as well.
And that includes the former landfill?
Correct.
Oh, I just wanted to get some clarity on that. Like, Roy Thornton constantly asks about that, right? So the landfill cap on Blatnick, so is it now official policy that it won't be mowed, or is there signage there? Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, so the Lomo signage that we have is up to that point. I don't think I don't know if is there one up on the cap anymore?
I don't know about the
So
cap.
when Roy and Ray and Ray's son, his name is escaping me. I apologize, but we met and then the dates were set and written down on when Roy said that it had to be the cap had to be mowed, and then we walked and he told him like how far he should go back into some invasive species to when he mows, to do the one mow and also to help try to control the invasive species. So we walked that whole entire cap, and I feel when we got Roy's stamp of approval, that was good. And that, but he has other areas that he would like us to work on the invasive species, but but what is happening on the cap is for Lomo. I can walk up there. I know that on the outskirts of it is, I don't know if there's an actual one up there because of the Frisbee golf.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's an actual sign up there, but we do have the signs.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an actual sign up there either. I only know the ones that you and I worked on and printed and put on Catherine Woods and River Hill.
Right. So
I kind of think there might be a sign somewhere because I remember pointing it out to someone and it wasn't Catherine's Woods.
I know they designed a slightly different sign
Yeah.
that was more focused on the Bobo link, right, for the cap. But I don't know if they ever put it up. I do not know.
Yeah,
We'll have to investigate.
Does anything happen with the Frisbee, the Frisbee golf? Like, does anyone ever play there anymore?
yes,
Okay.
I know that for a fact.
All right.
I would have to say that that is one of my like longer term goals is to connect with the people that are using our Frisbee golf. So if you have information, I would love to know after the meeting.
Okay, I have informal information, but yeah. It may not be helpful. Okay, Quiet Niskayuna, the town board adopted the resolution. That's great. We talked about the compost initiative, so wildlife corridors.
Given the July deadline for the NRI and other things that are on the plate, I can help you with the maps.
Okay. The July deadline is to become Climate Smart certified. So yeah, so it wouldn't necessarily affect our wildlife corridors, but the sooner we can do that, the better. And really, we had a good meeting. It's just a matter of putting the maps together and putting like a little guiding document together for us to use. Yes, it was a while ago. Yes.
Anywhere I can help you.
Probably just, Ashok knows this, just pester me.
Okay. So, we're in the queue.
Good.
And I think that the NRI and GE are going to dovetail well together for that initiative.
Yeah, so I just want to say on the record, I was very excited to hear that GE is actually appointing a liaison for our initiative so that we can start working with them. That's
They are?
awesome.
Yes.
That's what he said, Ashok. That's what he said.
Yes.
I guess I must have spaced out. I didn't know that's such good news. I would have jumped out of my seat.
And so
Looking forward to work.
to working with. So for the
Okay.
record, I'd like to be involved with that as well
Yeah.
because I got the Mohawk Riverbank reinforcement on that as well.
Mhm.
So I think that we have a good start.
Good, excellent.
Oh, Laura, quick question. Like in the past, like you have obtained interns, right? Like, can we get some interns?
So I was going to announce that when you were pestering Simran. He is going to be my intern this summer.
Oh, nice.
So that's great. So we already know how good a worker she is at the CAC. She will have to do some boring intern stuff because she also supports the building department. But when she's on the planning side, I think we can give her passion is Climate Smart. She's the one that actually basically helps run that whole, they were the Climate Warriors because they were related to the Silver Warriors, but now they're changing their name because the town of Niskayuna School is changing their name. So that's why they're now called I think she said they're called ACT, but it's essentially the Climate Warriors still. They're the goal, their goals are to do projects that reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So that is her, and plant trees. That's her passion. And so if we have projects, I will have her as my intern and we can have her work on them. So
Great, good.
I was very excited. She reached out to the supervisor, and the supervisor said, "Does anybody need an intern?" And as soon as I saw her name, I was like, "Hey, right here, I'll take her."
Excellent. Does anybody else have anything else to add to the meeting? Okay.
So just, you guys already know, be prepared to take action on GE at the next meeting.
Yep.
Though. So do
Um,
your research and figure out what you need. And if you have some outstanding questions ahead of time, you can email me and Clark, and we'll share them with GE. And that way we can have a full and ready package for you at the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to ask them about pesticides, but too late.
But if they're having the liaison, that was all in the memo that we did to them before. So I think that we're just going to start conversations with them about all of those things, which is very exciting to me.
Yes. Does someone want to make that motion? Did you, Helen, make that motion?
Make a motion to close the meeting for, this is February, right?
February, yep. Do we have a second?
7,
I'll second.
4.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The motion carries. We're adjourned. Thanks. Yay.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you guys though, like, I mean, you did a good job speaking up loud. I appreciate that. When it's the backup recording, it's very quiet, which is a shame because it was a great meeting.
Okay.